Was there a specific switch or a moment that caused you to be like, okay, now I'm going to step back?
Try to think of something specific. Not necessarily.
Were you...
Actually,
Go for it.
Actually, yeah, probably the most specific thing, this is getting more into like personal,
Sure.
but was when I came out of a 7-year relationship. That's when everything switched. That's when I had the most like self-reflection ever on my business, personal life, relationships with friends, everything. Was that just like opened up my mind to just like the whole thing. And within those 6 months is when everything changed.
How so? Like, what did you change?
Just my mind changed. Like, my mind just changed in every aspect possible. Like, think of it, I went like from being a boy to a man.
Yeah.
Like a boy to a man. That's the best way I can describe it. I took initiative, responsibility for everything. Everything that happened with my business. The like, if I was feeling like shit, it was my fault.
Yeah.
Everything was my fault. And I started telling myself that. I'm like, if I want to fix these things, I have to tell myself it's my fault, and then I have to find a solution. So that's why I like to think of myself as a master problem solver.
Yeah.
Everything. If there's a problem, my fault, how do I solve it? And it's worked for me. And I'm like happy doing it, because anytime a problem comes up, I ask myself, okay, how do I solve this? Like, I can solve it because it's in my control.
Yeah.
Like, I heard this thing, it's like, you can, like, if it's raining, even if you get wet, it's your fault. But that's because you chose to go outside without an umbrella. Right? So you can't control the rain, but you can control the fact that you can bring a tool that helps you from like keeping you from getting wet.
Right.
So that's what the way I look at it is, you technically do have control over every aspect of your life. You just have to see it.
So how did you go from being a boy to a man?
That breakup.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was. It's like it flipped a switch. Like instantly flipped a switch.
Yeah.
So, and then that's when I always say, it's like, the reason most people don't go from being a boy to a man is because they don't struggle.
Right.
They don't go through hardship. And in our society right now, honestly, it's pretty soft. It's pretty soft. Like, we don't go through a lot of like crazy intense things. And if you do, it's very sporadic. Like maybe once a month you might go through a little something, or like every 6 months you go through something very traumatic or whatever. But it's like people aren't taking enough risks and not failing enough. Like, the more you fail and the more risks you take, the faster you're going to become, say, a man, or you're going to be more successful. You literally just need to fail more. That's what I found. The more I failed and the more I told myself that it was my fault, I actually became stronger, smarter, better at like anything. But before, I would victimize myself. I'd be like, oh, like, this sucks. Like, why does this happen to me? Like, oh, like, why would this person treat me this way? Like, you know, like things like that. But how are you ever supposed to get better if you're never blaming yourself? You're always blaming other people. So it's always their fault. It's never your fault. So you don't have to get better. Because I'm just the victim. I'm just like, you guys are just beating me up. I'm just the punching bag. But if you turn into the puncher, then now you can look at things very differently. It's like, okay, well, if I threw that punch, how can I throw it better? Or why did I throw that punch? Why did I do that?
Yeah.
You know, you start asking yourself these things, and then you self-reflect, and then you can become a better person in every aspect of your life, not just business.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy how much a heartbreak put you in a
it
different
did.
spot, man.
It did. And at that time, at the time of the breakup too, it wasn't just that. It was the fact that I almost lost my business again. Yeah. So it was like everything at once, man. Breakup, almost lost my business, and was broke as shit, man.
Yep.
Broke as shit and almost lost my business, and was just like, I also had moved out and I almost couldn't afford my rent. And I was like, that was like my lowest point. Heartbreak, financially struggling, and almost had to move back home.
Yeah.
And it was just like, and there was more too. There was more stuff that was going on at the time, but it was just like everything at once. And I was like, okay, why is this happening? Why am I in this position? And I started analyzing everything as if it was like a chessboard. I was like, what moves did I make to put me in this position? And if the game isn't over, I'm not in checkmate. Like, what moves can I make to get out of this, to put myself in a better position so I'm no longer in checkmate? Because I felt like I was in checkmate. I was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm broke.
Can't go here, can't go there.
Yeah, don't have a job. Like, I'm about to lose my business, lost my girl, like all of these things, right?
Yeah.
So at that point, that's when everything started to change. And everything was, dude, it was like, so I was at this low point. From then, it was just like up, 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 come down, up, 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 come down, up, up, up. And it's just like ever since, it's just been going up. Like I've never evolved so much in like the past 2 years.
Yeah.
That's why I said when you guys brought me on the podcast today, I'm so happy you guys brought me today and not when you guys asked me before.
Yeah.
Because now it's like, and I think it's only going to get bigger and better. So.
Of course.
No, that's very interesting in terms of, you know, we've gone through similar phases in our life where it's like, you know, there's been points of low, and I think a lot of people fall into that victim mindset of like, you know, why did you do this to me? Or like, you know, why is it that, you know, the girl left me? Or why is it that, you know, the podcast didn't go out? Whereas you could sit back, and a lot of the times I heard this very beautiful quote, and it was like, when life is dark or you feel like everything around you is dark, just think of it as you're getting planted as a seed. It's a seed for you to grow, right? And I was like, holy shit. Like, this is because once you fall to your low, you got nothing back. You can't go lower, right?
Yeah.
You've already at your bottom. So you start stacking your way up to the top, which is, I feel like a lot of people don't really have that mindset nowadays, where it's like, you know, like keep trying. So it's interesting that you have that mindset. And it's a lot of the nowadays too is like that definition of being a man is very, I feel like everyone has a right to make that definition, right?
Yeah.
Like whether that's being a man to me versus being a man to Robin is very different.
Very subjective,
and,
for
very
sure.
subjective, right? And so when people talk about this being a man, I think it's important for the man to have his own values that he's chasing,
100%.
right? And it's like, we shouldn't let society define what that is. It's like you choose your values and you hunt those to what you think is being a man. Yeah.
100%. I agree with that.